The Mercy Forge had never been designed for beauty. Its hull was a patchwork of modular sections, hab rings, surgical bays, cryo wards, all bolted to a central spine like vertebrae on some mechanical leviathan. No weapons, no armor, just the red cross of old Earth painted 300 meters tall on its flank, visible from half an AU away. Dr. Amala O'Neill stood in the observation gallery, watching the stars drift past in their ancient silence. Behind her, the ship hummed with life. Over 1,400 souls aboard, refugees from the collapse of Kepler 442, burn victims from a mining accident on Titan's shoulder, a Vryn matriarch in induced coma after her colony ship had decompressed. 6 species, 12 languages, 1 mission. First, do no harm. She pressed her palm against the cold glass. Out here, 3 weeks from the nearest relay station, the Hippocratic Code felt less like a guideline and more like an anchor, something to hold on to when the void pressed too close. Dr. O'Neill, a voice crackled through her earpiece. We've got a contact. Long-range sensors just lit up. Amala's stomach tightened. Identify. Unknown configuration. Heavy mass signature. Moving fast. She was already running. The bridge was chaos. Captain Idris hunched over the hollow table, his face bathed in red warning glyphs. Tactical Officer Chen stood rigid at her station, fingers dancing across haptic controls. Range, Idris barked. 400,000 clicks and closing. Velocity? Jesus. 12% light speed and still accelerating. Amala stepped into the light. Is it Terran? No transponder. No hail. Chen's voice was flat, professional, terrified. Captain, that silhouette. I think it's a pirate dreadnought. The word hung in the air like a guillotine. Pirates. Not the romanticized corsairs of the old vids, but scavengers, butchers. The kind who'd strip a hospital ship for parts and sell their crew to the biomarkets on the Naraka station. Open a channel, Idris said quietly. Broadcast on all frequencies. Tell them we're a medical vessel, unarmed, protected under the Geneva Convention and the Accord of Domes Furios. They're firing. The Mercy Forge shuddered. Lights flickered. Somewhere deep in the ship, alarms began to scream. Missile impact on Section 7, Chen reported. Hull breach. Sealing now. Amala's fingers dug into the back of Idris's chair. Casualties? Unknown. Medbay 3 is gone. If anyone was in there, get damage control teams moving now. She turned to Idris. We need to run. We're a hospital ship, Doctor. We top out at 0.03 C. That dreadnought could run us down in an hour. Another impact. The deck lurched sideways. Amala caught herself against the console, tasting copper. Her vision swam. They're hailing us, Chen said. Put it through. The voice that filled the bridge was synthesized, gender neutral, utterly devoid of humanity. Medical vessel Mercy Forge, you are carrying high-value biocargo. Surrender immediately, and we will permit your crew to evacuate in escape pods. Resist, and we will vent every compartment. You have 60 seconds to comply. Idris's jaw worked. High-value biocargo. They mean the patients. They mean slaves. Amala's voice cracked. They'll harvest organs. Sell the healthy ones to labor camps. Captain, we can't doctor. Idris met her eyes. His face was carved from stone. I know. The channel closed. Silence rushed back in, thick and suffocating. Chen spoke first. Sir, we have one asset, the debris clearing system. The mass driver? Idris shook his head. That's for moving asteroids out of approach lanes. It's not a PN's. It's a railgun, Chen interrupted. Electromagnetic acceleration, tungsten slugs mounted on the dorsal spine. If we could rate it for velocities under 10,000 meters per second, a warship's point defense would swat those slugs like gnats, unless we overcharge it. Every head turned. The voice had come from the back of the bridge. A man in grease-stained coveralls, utility belt sagging with tools. Pasquale Ruiz, debris technician. No rank, no authority. Just a welder who'd survived 2 tours in the Belt Wars and now spent his days clearing ice from docking clamps. He stepped forward. The fusion reactor. If we reroute the entire output through the capacitor banks, bypass the safeties, we could accelerate a slug to maybe 20% light speed, maybe more. Idris stared. That would melt the rails, probably crack the spine. We'd get one shot. One's all we need, sir. And if you miss? Ruiz smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Then we die knowing we tried. Amala felt something cold settle in her chest. She looked at the hollow table, at the glowing red icon of the pirate ship closing like a tumor, at the 1,400 lives depending on her, on all of them. First, do no harm, but harm was already here. Harm had a name. Harm had guns. Do it, she whispered. Idris glanced at her. Doctor, I said do it. Her voice rang like a bell. We're not cargo. We're not victims. And I'll be damned if I let those butchers turn my patients into commodities. The captain nodded slowly. Mr. Ruiz, you have 30 minutes. Make it count. Ruiz grinned. A wild, terrible thing. Aye, sir. And the Mercy Forge, unarmed and unarmored, began to bare its teeth. Pasquale Ruiz had been a welder before he'd been a soldier, and a soldier before he'd been a pacifist. Somewhere between the Belt Wars and the Mercy Forge, he'd convinced himself those days were over, that the smell of molten steel and burning flesh could stay buried. He'd been wrong. Now he sprinted through the ship's maintenance crawlways, magnetic boots clanging on grated floors, dragging a plasma cutter and a toolkit that weighed more than he did. Behind him, 2 junior engineers struggled to keep up. Yuki Tanaka, barely 20, fresh from the academy, and Greaves, a belter whose augmented arms could rip bulkheads like paper. Ruiz, wait up, Yuki gasped. Where are we even going? Reactor control. Deck 9. That's restricted. Not anymore. He skidded around a corner, nearly colliding with a medical team rushing the opposite direction. A nurse shouted something. He didn't stop. The Mercy Forge groaned around them. Another impact. Distant, muffled sent tremors through the superstructure. Somewhere, someone was screaming. Focus. One problem at a time. They reached the reactor chamber in 4 minutes. Ruiz slapped his palm against the access panel. It blinked red. Denied. He swore, yanked a bypass shunt from his belt, and jammed it into the port. The door hissed open. Inside, the fusion reactor pulsed like a captured star. Magnetic containment fields shimmered blue-white, holding back temperatures that could vaporize planets. Ruiz had seen reactors before. Everyone in the fleet had. But never like this. Never with the safeties offline, and the output spiking into the red. Greaves, get the capacitor array online. Yuki, I need you to reroute coolant from the medical bays. All of it. But the patients will die in 30 minutes if we don't do this. Move. She ran. Ruiz turned to the primary console, fingers flying over haptic keys. The debris-clearing system wasn't designed for combat. It was a glorified slingshot. Electromagnetic coils wrapped around a 12-menor barrel, meant to shove rocks at walking speed. But the principles were sound. Accelerate mass. Transfer energy, point, shoot. Simple. Except nothing was simple. The power requirements alone would drain the reactor dry, and if the magnetic bottle destabilized even a fraction, if the containment failed, the resulting explosion would turn the Mercy Forge into a second sun. Ruiz. Greaves's voice boomed. Capacitors are live, but the breakers are screaming. We're already at 200% tolerance. Then get them to 300. That's insane. I know. Ruiz didn't look up. His hands were shaking. When did they started shaking? Trust me, Greaves. Just trust me. The belter stared. Then slowly he nodded. Aye. 20 decks above in the cramped confines of the dorsal gunnery bay. Captain Idris watched the external feed. The pirate dreadnought gilded deck, its hull scarred and festooned with stolen weapons, loomed larger with every second. Already, boarding pods were detaching from its flanks like metal spores. They're launching assault teams, Chen reported. 20 pods. ETA 6 minutes. Idris exhaled. Can we target them? Not with the main gun. They're too small, too maneuverable. We'd waste the shot. Then we wait. Dr. O'Neill appeared at his shoulder. She'd changed into surgical scrubs. Navy blue splattered with something dark. Blood, maybe? Or hydraulic fluid? How's Ruiz doing? Don't know. Comms are spotty. Idris glanced at her. You should be in the surgical bay. I should be here. Her voice was steady. Surgeon steady. The kind of calm you learned when lives hung in the balance. If this works, I want to see it. If it doesn't, she shrugged. Then it won't matter where I am. A proximity alarm blared. One of the boarding pods slammed into the Mercy Forge's lower hull, clamping tight. Cutting torches flared. "They're in," Chen said. Ruiz heard the breach alarm and felt his stomach drop. "No, not yet. Just a few more minutes. Yuki, status?" "Coolant's online." "But Ruiz, the temperature curve. If we fire, the barrel will melt. Doesn't matter. One shot, remember? What about us? We're sitting 20 meters from an overcharged reactor." He finally looked at her. Yuki's face was pale, eyes wide, but her hands were steady on the console. "A professional. Good. If we don't fire," Ruiz said quietly, "the pirates will kill everyone on this ship, including us. So we fire, and we pray." She swallowed, nodded. The reactor's hum deepened, resonating in his teeth. The containment fields flickered once, twice, then stabilized. On the readout, power output climbed past 300%, 350, 400. Greaves' voice crackled through the comms. "Ruiz, I don't know how much more the coils can take. Just hold it together. I'm trying." An explosion rocked the ship. Ruiz grabbed the console to stay upright. Over the intercom, someone was shouting about hull breaches, about pirates in the corridors, about Ruiz. Captain Idris's voice cutting through the chaos. "We've got a problem." "What now?" "The patient, the Vrian matriarch. She's awake." Ruiz blinked. "What?" "She's awake, and she says she knows how to beat them." In the medical bay, Dr. O'Malley stared at the alien woman strapped to the gurney. The Vrin's 6 eyes gleamed like polished obsidian, her chitinous skin rippling with bioluminescent patterns. Language, O'Malley realized. She was speaking. A translator bot hovered nearby, its synthetic voice flat. "The ship. Guilt edict, I know it. I served aboard before." O'Malley leaned closer. "You were a pirate, slave, engineer. I escaped." The Vrenan's mandibles clicked. Their sensor array, thermal only, blind to electromagnetic. If you cloak heat signature, they cannot see. O'Malley's breath caught. She grabbed her comm. "Idris, shut down life support. Everything non-essential. Make us invisible. Doctor, people will freeze. Not before we fire." A pause. Then, understood. The Mercy Forge went dark, silent, cold. And in the heart of the ship, Pascual Ruiz aimed a god. In the sudden cold and darkness, the Mercy Forge became a tomb. Life support sputtered offline. Gravity flickered. Frost crept across bulkheads like skeletal fingers. 1,400 souls held their breath. Pascual Ruiz stood in the gunnery control room, hands locked on the targeting console. Through the external feed, he could see the Guilt Edict, a monstrous silhouette backlit by distant starlight, bristling with weapons that could crack continents. It hung there, 300,000 kilometers away, utterly still, waiting. Range holding steady. Chen's voice crackled through his earpiece. "They've stopped accelerating, I think. I think they're scanning for us." "Let them look," Ruiz muttered. His breath plumed white. The temperature had already dropped to freezing. His fingers ached. They won't see ghosts. Behind him, Yuki and Greaves huddled near the reactor controls, watching the power readout climb. 500%, 550. The magnetic containment fields screamed, oscillating wildly, held together by duct tape and prayer. "Ruiz," Greaves said slowly, "if this thing goes critical, it won't. If it does, then we'll die famous." Ruiz glanced back, grinning like a madman. "Come on, Greaves. Where's that belter optimism?" "I left it in the belt." Yuki laughed, a thin, brittle sound. "We're insane. You know that, right?" "Probably." The ship shuddered. Another boarding pod latched onto the hull. Ruiz heard the distant screech of cutting torches, the rattle of boots on metal. The pirates were inside now, carving through decks, hunting for the crew, hunting for him. Not yet. Just a few more seconds. On the bridge, Captain Idris watched the tactical display. The Guilt Edict hadn't moved. Its weapons were armed, charged and ready, but it wasn't firing. Searching, maybe. Confused by the sudden disappearance of its prey. Dr. O'Malley stood beside him, arms crossed, face pale. How long until the reactor destabilizes? 2 minutes, maybe less. And if we fire? Then we'll know if Ruiz is a genius or a lunatic. She smiled thinly. Can he be both? Idris didn't answer. On the screen, one of the boarding teams breached into Deck 4. Marines in salvaged armor, carrying weapons that hummed with lethal intent. They moved like predators, efficient and cruel. Chen, Idris said quietly, seal all blast doors on decks 3 through 6. Vent the compartments. The tactical officer hesitated. Sir, there are civilians. Do it. Chen's fingers moved. Somewhere in the ship, airlocks opened. Screams cut short. Silence rushed back in. Idris closed his eyes. Forgive me. Ruiz heard the venting. He didn't react, couldn't afford to. The targeting solution was everything now. Velocity, trajectory, lead time. The guilt edict was massive, but space was bigger. A fraction of a degree error, and the shot would sail past harmlessly into the void. No pressure. Reactor at 600%, Yuki reported. Her voice trembled. Ruiz, the containment bottle is failing. We have maybe 30 seconds before. That's 30 seconds more than I need. He locked the targeting reticle on the dreadnought's midsection, where the Vrin had said the sensor array clustered. One blind spot, one chance. Greaves, transfer all power to the capacitors, everything. This is it then. This is it. The belter slammed his augmented fist down on the override. The lights died. The reactor howled, a sound like stars collapsing, and every joule of energy in the Mercy Forge funneled into the debris-clearing gun. The railgun woke up. Electromagnetic coils ignited along the 12-meter barrel, glowing cherry red, then white-hot, then beyond visible spectrum. Inside the breach, a single tungsten slug, 200 kilograms of dense, murderous metal, hung suspended in magnetic fields that could flatten mountains. Ruiz's finger hovered over the firing stud. His heart hammered. His vision narrowed. First, do no harm, but sometimes harm was mercy. He pressed the button. The universe screamed. The railgun fired, not with sound, but with raw physics. Electromagnetic forces ripped the tungsten slug forward, accelerating it from 0 to 20% light speed in less than a heartbeat. The barrel melted, vaporized, exploded in a plume of superheated metal. The Mercy Forge's spine cracked like a broken bone, twisting under forces it was never designed to withstand, and the slug flew. It crossed 300,000 kilometers in 1.5 seconds. From the bridge, Idris watched the external feed. He saw the guilt edict hanging there, arrogant and invincible. Saw its weapons charging, saw impact. The dreadnought didn't explode. Explosions were too slow. Instead, it ceased to exist. The tungsten slug punched through the hull at relativistic velocity, transferring kinetic energy equivalent to a small nuclear warhead. Metal vaporized, armor boiled. The ship folded inward on itself, crumpling like paper in a fist. And then, nothing. Just debris. Just dust. Just silence. Chen stared. My God. Idris exhaled. He hadn't realized he'd been holding his breath. Damage report. Dorsal spine is compromised. Reactor is offline. Life support is offline. Chen's voice cracked. Captain, we're drifting, but we're alive. Yes, sir. Ruiz woke to pain. His ribs were broken. At least 2, maybe more. His left arm hung useless. Blood dripped from somewhere. He didn't care. Yuki was pulling him upright, shouting something he couldn't hear. Greaves stood nearby, laughing, actually laughing, tears streaming down his soot-blackened face. We did it, the belter said. Holy Ruiz, we did it. Ruiz nodded weakly. Told you, one shot. 3 days later, a Taran frigate arrived to find the Mercy Forge adrift, crippled but intact. 1,400 souls rescued. No casualties, except the enemy. Dr. Amala O'Malley stood in the observation gallery once more, watching the stars. Behind her, patients slept in heated wards. Engineers worked to repair the spine. Life continued. She pressed her palm against the glass. Out there, somewhere in the black, floated the remains of the guilt edict. A warning, a memory. Even mercy has teeth. Captain Idris joined her. They're calling us heroes. We're not heroes, Amala said quietly. We're survivors. Isn't that the same thing? She smiled. Maybe. And the Mercy Forge, unarmed and unarmored, drifted peacefully through the void.